Hello and welcome to Straight Bat, my weekly video blog where, as the title suggests, I play and comment with a straight bat. Today we are going to talk on a question which troubles some. Why is it that our celebrities, our film stars and cricketers don't seem to offer a mirror to those in power? Why is it that they are unwilling to speak truth to power? Why is it that the rich and famous seem to lack a backbone, a spine? Well, long before Akshay Kumar, the Hindutva poster boy as he has become, there was Kishore Kumar. The actor-singer crooned his way into the hearts of millions with his wonderfully melodious voice. But his genius was not just confined to his singing. In 1975, soon after the emergency was declared, Indira Gandhi's government was keen to get Bollywood to embrace the 20-point program and asked the singer to perform at a youth congress rally. Kishore Kumar refused. Then, in a patently vindictive action, the then Information and Broadcasting Minister, the infamous V.C. Shukla, ordered a ban on the singer across All India Radio and Doordarshan. Well, Kishore Kumar remained unbent. But he was not alone in standing up to the emergency. There was Dev Anand, there was Manoj Kumar, Shatrughan Sinha, all big stars in that period. Now, long before the present stars of Indian cricket as well, there was Bishan Singh Bedi. The former India captain, the legendary left-arm spinner, tangled with authorities on more than one occasion. In fact, in 1974, he was dropped from a test match by the authorities because he spoke up for the players and their need to get better allowances. He became captain and then again he spoke up for the players. Why? Because in freezing winter, some of them were not being given hot water, running hot water in their bathrooms when they were playing for India. And on another occasion, he ran foul of the English county cricket system because he spoke out against the manner in which England fast bowler John Lever was using Vaseline on a cricket ball. For that, he lost his county contract. And yet, he stayed firm. The latest joust, well, he wrote a letter to the Delhi District Cricket Association saying, objecting to Arun Jaitley, the late Arun Jaitley, the BJP leader's statue being erected at the Firozshah Kotla ground now named after Mr. Jaitley. Mr. Bedi said it was unacceptable to have a cricket administrator having a statue. It should be a cricketer, and said, please remove my name from a stand that has been named after me in protest. He's now a septuagenarian, but he is a rebel without a pause. The question I ask, therefore, is where are the Kishore Kumars and the Bishan Singh Bedis in today's world? Why is it that so many of our film and cricketing superstars are unwilling to stand up to any form of executive power and instead resort to obsequious sycophancy or in some instances downright chamchagiri? The latest example being the flood of tweets almost identical in support of the government on the farm laws. Now, those who haven't said a word ever on the hundreds of farm suicides that take place in the country are suddenly expressing their concern over the Kisan protests. By being so obviously part of a central government orchestrated social media counterblast in response to a single tweet by a Barbadian pop singer Rihanna, our iconic stars have simply reduced themselves, in my view, to copy-paste cheerleaders, propagandists, seemingly lacking a mind of their own. Now, in a regime obsessively paranoid at times about image management, it would appear that these hugely popular stars with their large followings, living in a mammon-induced bubble where money talks above all else, have become pawns in some kind of a perception game or a perception war that is remote controlled by the big state, and any defiance of which could lead to unforeseen consequences. Now, we could argue that this isn't entirely a post-2014 phenomenon. Controlling or at least co-opting popular cultural icons has been a favorite pastime of political parties in power for generations. The Nehruvian Congress for a long time enjoyed a, dare I say, an ideological dominance in the Hindi film industry in the era of Dilip Kumar, Nargis Dutt, Raj Kapoor. The left also, with the likes from a Balraj Sahni to a Shabana Azmi, had a strong presence in the film and theatre world. But now what's happened is, as society gets even more sharply polarized, the partisanships and the ideological cleavages are even more apparent even in the world of cinema. For every Anupam Kher, there is a Nasiruddin Shah, yes. For every Kangana Ranaut, there is a Tapsi Pannu. And for every Madhur Bhandarkar, there will be a Anurag Kashyap. But the truth is, when the state goes out of its way to bestow patronage on those whom it perceives as its ideological fellow travelers or its partisans, and ruthlessly targets its critics, then the temptation to follow the leader is that much greater. I think it's the sheer brazenness now in execution and intent of bestowing these favors that is the difference. In a way, this means that there is a shrinking space for any independent view. Why? Because of a fear of retribution. There is a clear fear factor that I believe pushes some of our celebrities to toe the official line in a manner that frankly reveals that there is no real space for them to, or they fear there is no space for them to exercise their right to free speech without being targeted. And this happens when a state becomes more and more autocratic and spreads its tentacles in that manner. V.C. Shukla-like figures abound in today's politics, to be very honest, and society. There are people who sort of are the big bullies, and it is very difficult to remain immune to their pressures. From opening up income tax files to lodging enforcement directorate inquiries and FIRs. Fact is, state agencies are routinely used to expose the soft underbelly of our rich and famous. Last year, the Riya Chakrabarti case was a classic example of just how untrammeled state power can terrorize in a way even the film industry. The danger of a knock on the door from the Narcotics Control Bureau was real and omnipresent. Moreover, it isn't just the ruling political elite who are guilty of threat and intimidation. Today, it is self-styled vigilante groups, state-sponsored social media armies, even random individual citizens who can play this role of the big bully, unleashing a deadly campaign of cyber abuse and violence, and that can have an impact as well. In fact, the common strand that now unites these forces is their strident espousal of a certain majoritarian nationalism that effectively criminalizes the slightest expression of dissent as anti-national. Remember when a Deepika Padukone went and just stood silently at the JNU University grounds, she was immediately branded as anti-national. In Hollywood, stars like Meryl Streep who speak truth to power are celebrated. In India, sadly today, they are censured. Recall when a few years ago, actors Shah Rukh Khan and Amir Khan were accused of speaking out on the seeming rising culture of intolerance in our society. Truth be told, those street protests against them were engineered by an array of groups mostly aligned to a Hindutva ideology, all aiming to question the patriotism of the Khans, their surname making them particularly vulnerable in a climate of rising religious intolerance and bigotry. By threatening to boycott their films, by targeting the cinema theatres, coercing sponsors to withdraw their ads, These protesters are also consciously targeting the financial viability of these high-value brands. Frankly, the stakes involved in a mega film production are astronomical, and therefore fewer and fewer people are willing to take the risk of standing up to the mob. This might partly explain why a top film producer director like Karan Johar during the making of Wake Up Sid had to go and apologize to a political figure like Raj Thackeray for allegedly hurting Marathi Manu's sentiments. Who would protect a Karan Johar is the question at times one might well ask. Would our police be out there to protect him if the mob targeted a cinema theatre? Is a question to ask. The irony, though, is that while most of our A-lister celebrities as a result have chosen this path of least resistance, it is those on the fringes of the fame industry who have proven to be braver and bolder. Perhaps because they fear they have less to lose, they tend to be more courageous. Take, for example, the growing tribe of popular stand-up comedians. Kunal Kamra, for example, has refused to bend before a Supreme Court's contempt notice and instead has given a powerful response. Others are carrying on courageously with their plucky entertainment acts. And yet you ask yourself, when a stand-up comedian like Munawar Farooqui is arrested in Indore, kept in jail for a month, even before he performed an act, you ask yourself, how long before these stand-up comedians too are reined in? All of this has a chilling effect somewhere. As Kishore Kumar might well have sung, "Ye kahan aa gaye hum?" As a postscript, while our film stars bend, what of my favorite champion cricketers, who in a sense are less dependent, one would think, on government support and patronage? Well, all I can say is when the key official in the cricket board is the son of the second most powerful person in the country, do we really expect our cricketers to do anything else but discuss, guess what, farm laws in a pre-match team meeting? Think about it. This was The Straight Bat.